Pennsylvania is exploding. A judge blocks vote certification as eyewitness testimony gives shocking details of voter fraud throughout the state. In this video, we're going to take a look at the explosive new developments coming out of Pennsylvania, how the courts and the legislatures there are beginning to close in on election fraud, and how the state may indeed be on the verge of turning this presidential race on its head. You are not going to want to miss this. Welcome everyone, Dr. Steve here with you, ready to bring you our latest episode celebrating the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a regular part of this channel where each and every day we focus on optimism and encouragement in the midst of all the defeatist fake news nonsense spewed out by the mainstream media. Before we get into things here, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, the founder of our feast, and that's the Backup Solar Bank. In the midst of our whole emergency situation that we found ourselves in, one of the best things we can invest in for our protection when the lights go out is what's called a solar power bank, okay? It's a backup power bank that's powered by the sun. It allows you to charge up to 2 devices at once, and you'll never have to waste money on batteries again. Now, limited supply lasts, and this is the very last chance to get yours at a 30% discount before they sell out. So don't wait. Click on the link below right now and give you and your family the gift of power anywhere in the world. Click on the link below or visit backupsolarbank.com. That's backupsolarbank.com. You'll be glad that you did. All right, so let's dive right in here, gang. Things really are heating up in Pennsylvania, okay? Now, if you don't know what's going on there, let's start with the latest from the judicial sphere. Again, just to make sure we're all on the same page, the Trump team, which is doing an amazing job, is fighting in 2 theaters of war, okay? The legislative and the legal. These are the 2 flanks in the attack on getting these election results decertified or non-certified. So let's look at the legal flank. As of today, a Pennsylvania judge just blocked the state from certifying their election results until her court holds hearings on the election on Friday the 27th. Judge Patricia McCullough ordered the state to not take any further steps to complete the certification of the votes. She has blocked the certification of any and all further votes pending further hearings. Now, this is a stunner because as of yesterday, as I'm sure you know, we talked about this in our live stream last night, but yesterday, the Pennsylvania Secretary of State, who's a piece of work, her name is Kathy Boockvar, she's a Democrat, of course. As of yesterday afternoon, she certified the Pennsylvania vote for Biden. And this after an Obama-appointed judge threw out the Trump legal team's effort to stop certification. Now, you need to know that this Democrat certification of a pro-Biden vote tally was expected. It was an important move to try to stop it because that would give some cover for any nervous Republicans in the state legislature who were having cold feet in voting to delegitimize the vote in Pennsylvania. But make no mistake, it is the state legislature that ultimately certifies by appointing electors, right? Or decertifies by refusing to appoint electors. All of this goes back to the state legislatures. And what they're doing right now is they're forecasting a very real consideration not to certify the vote at the legislative level, which we'll get into in a moment. But we have another development on the legal flank of this Trump team offensive. It's now been announced that a Pennsylvania court has granted a hearing in the election integrity case challenging the constitutionality of Act 77. Now, this is huge. Remember, when trying to keep all of this organized in your mind, there are 2 levels of this legal flank. There's the level of illegalities in terms of voter fraud, but there's also a level of improprieties among election and non-legislative officials. And so while the legislature is hearing all about the fraud and the abuse that happened with the ballots, the courts are also dealing with the notion of impropriety, particularly among judges on Pennsylvania's Supreme Court. Now, we've talked about Act 77 before, but it bears repeating. Back in 2019, the Pennsylvania legislature passed a law simply called Act 77. It permitted all voters to cast their votes by mail, but it absolutely and unequivocally required that all mail-in ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day when the polls officially close. Any all ballots received after that time will simply not be valid. They won't be counted. And of course, this was essential to avoid these 11th hour ballot dumps that always seem to favor the Democrats, right? Always. So the law expressly requires that ballots be submitted by 8 p.m. on election day at the moment the polls close. So there's no election tampering going on after the votes start to get counted. Seems simple enough. And they even put in a provision that if this law were violated or somehow overruled, the entire law that permitted mail-in ballots would end up invalid, which I take it to mean that all mail-in ballots would in effect be disqualified. This was a non-negotiable feature of Act 77. Will permit mail-in ballots, but they got to be in by 8 p.m. on election day, period. Well, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court disagreed. So a few weeks before the election, by a vote of 4-3, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decided that mail-in ballots emphatically do not need to be received by 8 p.m. on election day. Instead, they moved the goalpost to the date that the ballot was marked. So as long as a ballot was postmarked on or before election day and received upwards of 3 days thereafter, the vote would be counted. So no matter what your position is on the nature of Act 77 and the provisions stated therein or what the court did in response, regardless of any of that, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court obviously and blatantly rewrote the law. The court intervened in such a way that expressly changed the law from the unambiguous, non-negotiable deadline of 8 p.m. on election day to a new standard of postmarking on the election day in general and received within 3 days after the election. Now, here's the problem to that. Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito pointed out that the U.S. Constitution expressly gives state legislatures sole authority to prescribe the date, time, and manner of an election, and courts have absolutely nothing to do with it. And so the U.S. Supreme Court has telegraphed that they are ready to invalidate all votes cast after 8 p.m. on election day in Pennsylvania, which is hundreds of thousands of votes. Well, now the court date has been set for the Trump legal team to begin the process of making their way to the Supreme Court to get those votes thrown out. They are now illegal votes. And that victory alone would be more than enough to hand Pennsylvania to Trump. So the legal flank is rocking and rolling here. Let's move into the other flank with the Trump team offensive, and that is the legislative flank, right? The legislative flank is absolutely kicking into gear here. But first, we've got a special announcement. We are beginning our Black Friday discount specials early. We're beginning it today on Wednesday. So what that means is that anyone who buys Wednesday through Friday, if you buy $150 worth of store-wide discounts, you're going to get a free gift in your cart. You're going to absolutely love it. So what you do is you got to click on the link below. You'll find that everything in our merch store, all our t-shirts, our mugs, our hats, all kinds of gear, everything is discounted. And so it's a perfect time to stock up on your Christmas gifts for the Trump-loving conservatives in your life and maybe for yourself as well. And again, if you spend $150 or more, you're going to get a free gift sent to you. But I'm not going to tell you what that gift is. You got to find out. You got to purchase the discounted merch to find out, right? So don't wait. You've literally only got hours to take advantage of these crazy discounts and get your free gift. So click on the link down below today and stock up on your discounted nationalist populist gear. You're going to absolutely love it. All right. So as far as the legislature is concerned, the Majority Policy Committee in Pennsylvania is meeting this afternoon to hear eyewitness testimony of voter fraud throughout the state, but particularly in Philadelphia, Montgomery County. Doug Mastriano is the state senator who's spearheading this. He is the real deal, as I understand it. He's a nationalist populist, huge Trump supporter, and he's the Pennsylvania legislator overseeing all this. Rudy Giuliani, as I understand it, the whole of the Trump's legal team was supposed to be there. I don't know if they made it. I heard somebody's actually sick with COVID on their team, so I'm a bit unclear what's going on there. But my, oh my, I listened to some of the eyewitness testimony myself. The eyewitness testimonies were frankly shocking. They're shocking, okay? If these were Democrat observers talking about what they saw after Biden lost in a landslide, CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times would be all over this. One observer testified how he saw hundreds of thousands of Philadelphia mail-in ballots processed with zero civilian oversight. Another testified that as supervisors, they weren't allowed anywhere near the counting tables. They had no way of determining whether the ballots were valid or fraudulent. Here's another one. This is going to make your blood boil. You ready for this? On average, about 1% of mail-in ballots are rejected in any given election. It's worse for first-time voters. For first-time mail-in ballot voters, the average is 3% rejection. Do you want to take a guess as to how many mail-in ballots were rejected in Pennsylvania? 0.03%. Let that number hit you. With all the massive first-time mail-in voters, where the average rejection rate is 3%, Pennsylvania rejected only 0.03% of mail-in ballots. It gets worse in Montgomery County, according to Newsmax's Steve Cortez. There is no record of a single mail-in ballot having been rejected. No mail-in ballots were rejected, which is obvious proof that the ballots were not vetted. The ballots weren't vetted in the least, let alone supervised. I think Pennsylvania State Legislator Dean Browning said it best when he tweeted out, "This Gettysburg hearing sounds like an election from a third world. I cannot believe that this is America." I mean, that's akin to what I was thinking when I was listening to some of this testimony. You can hear it for yourself. You can watch on Right Side Broadcasting. It's beyond belief the level of corruption and fraud that was perpetrated on the American electoral system. So we'll obviously be keeping our eyes very much fixed on how things develop here in Pennsylvania. But from the looks of things, both in terms of the legal sphere and the legislative sphere, it looks like things are about to explode. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video. I just uploaded it. Oh, how apropos. On the colossal fall of Fox News. You're going to absolutely love it. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.